I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Livestock and Grain Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending July the 26th, which reminds me, happy birthday, Mom. Your yearling feeder cattle sold steady to firm with your full demand and really a shift from the heavier weights going back to your 7 to 8 weight true yearlings, wanting those lighter weights to take advantage of cheaper cost of gains down the road, but really seeing that best demand shift down to the lighter weight yearlings. Your calf markets were much more active than they have been for the last month or two, as we're starting to see a higher percentage of calves make up the receipts. These higher prices, better markets starting to pull some of those calves, and some guys just market this time of year with those new crop calves. And those calves selling firm to $5 higher across the country, spots as much as $10 higher, especially on your popular weights of steer calves from $450 up to 550 pounds there. But you really saw the full advance of that market down in your southeastern sale barn circuits. Your order buyers down there had a lot more money to spend than they've had all summer long, as those rains that we've seen in the southern plains, and I tell you, it doesn't take very long when you get down in the Panhandle region down there, western Oklahoma, going up into that area, it just overnight turns green, and that country has been so dry, and they've had some real good rains here in the last few weeks, and already starting to green up and turn pretty nice. And those guys are going to take advantage of it. They're already ordering some grazers in for late summer and fall pasture. But cheaper feed costs is the big thing going on in all your feeder cattle markets right now. We're starting to see that come to fruit, and it looks like we are going to get some cheaper feed, and a lot cheaper. Your corn September contracts on the board of corn this week were down 50 cents, a little over 50 cents just this week, but your cash markets is where you really see it. And this is for current delivery cash markets, but in Omaha, kind of a benchmark on your cash market, Omaha corn on Thursday dropped nearly $1 a bushel. And that is huge. You don't see that. Dropped with the top bid being from $6.73 a bushel on Wednesday down to $5.76 on Thursday. Now the board dropped a bunch, but also the basis that those elevators are offering, off of what the futures is, it dropped big time. They just don't, they're not pulling that corn anymore. We've seen a lot of these farmers that were kind of hoarding some of that on-farm storage start to see this corn making right now, and they've started dumping some of that corn, and your beans also, maybe more so on the beans, but really not a lot of demand right now for that corn, because the people that need a lot of corn aren't going to wait till right before the new crop comes in to make their purchases and their buys. Probably not going to be a lot of action on this corn until we start seeing some new crop come in, which is not that far away. Your southern regions, they grow corn down in the southeast too, South Texas, places like that. The corn's already made down there, and they've got a pretty nice crop going. We've seen some timely rains. It's been pretty dry in the corn belt, but we've seen some timely rains here recently, and it looks like that your corn's going to make pretty good up in the corn belt, especially in your high yielding regions of Iowa, which really got a nice rain there last weekend. But you figure that cash market, Omaha corn from $6.73 one day to $5.76 the next. That happened this week. Just a year ago this time, your cash corn in Omaha hit an all-time record high of $8.25 a bushel. But we're looking to see the biggest year-on-year drop in corn price in history of keeping record of prices on corn. But we've learned some lessons on feeding cattle in these high-priced feed times, and maybe the biggest lesson we learned is how to diversify on rations, how to use different things that are cheaper, take advantage of some cheaper rations. And corn might go down $2 a bushel, from last year at new crop to this year, but that doesn't mean all these feedlots are going to go right back to feeding 90% corn in their ration. They've started to learn that there's a lot of other things to feed, especially in your roughage. We're seeing a lot of people baling up wheat straw, and there's syrup and things you can put on there that makes it really palatable and allows you to save some money feeding these cattle. but also we've learned to start putting more weight on cattle before we put them in the feedlot. And if you look at June placements off of last week's cattle on feed report, your cattle weighing over, your placements of cattle in June weighing over 800 pounds were up 27%. On the other hand, your placement of cattle into feedlots weighing under 700 pounds was down 30%, which that probably means that we're going to have a lot of market-ready cattle, you know, going up through the end of the summer and into fall, and that's getting into our roughest time of the market. But we may have already hit bottom there. We thought maybe it was going to go lower, quite a bit lower than 120, but the market's kind of stalled out at 119 here for the last few weeks, and Southern Plains has been able to keep that again this week. The fed cattle market was steady at 119, while your northern feedlots was able to pull a little bit more out of, and most dress sales up there $1 to $2 higher from 194 to 195. But your highest market seen this week, I watched the northern livestock video out of Billings for 2.5 days right there. And if you wonder why Pays and Billings Live, those two big sale barns in Billings, don't get a lot of cattle anymore like they did years ago, they sell them all on this video. But I had 96,000 head of cattle on that video, and overwhelmingly in Montana. Overwhelmingly fall delivery, mostly October calves to coming out of Montana. And there's a jillion ranches up there from the Canadian border all the way down and all the way across on each side, and just all of them selling in a really good market. Very, very few no sales. Really good market. They also sold some cattle outside of Montana too. Some of the highest cattle. Had a few yearlings on there. Your Sunlight ranches and the one based near Sheridan, Wyoming, sold 400 NHTC or non-hormone yearling steers weighing 940 for $150. That's for current delivery. Erickson Sandhills Ranch near Seneca, Nebraska, north of North Platte there, sold 2 big loads of all natural steers weighing 950 pounds coming right away for $150, $150. OKC West El Reno Livestock Market down there in Oklahoma opened this week after that terrible tornado, that deadly one that come through El Reno there and wiped the sale barn out too. But they had a good sale this week, first week back, had 6,100 head, and they sold really well, had no price comparison of course. Didn't set up a tent, going to go ahead and put in permanent facilities there. They're still under construction, didn't quite have the offices done yet. But one major addition that they have on the facility now is a community storm shelter, and you like to see that. Regional weighted averages this week in the north central states, 800 to 900 pound steer this week cost you $147.69 compared to $147.76 last week and $132.19 a year ago. Those year ago numbers are really dropping fast. South Central region, 700 to 800 pound steer cost you $146.89 compared to $145.77 last week and $134.88 a year ago. Down in the southeast, 500 to 600 pound steer cost you $147.15 compared to $144.55 last week and $129.70 a year ago. That wraps up your feeder stocker cattle market summary for this week. Check out our website for more market information at marketnews.usda.gov. From the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.